I've lived 1,000 lives. I've piloted 1,000 souls. I've killed and fought at night just for another role.
This is the Happy Jacks RPG podcast, a roundtable discussion that's a mix of friendship, humor, unbridled enthusiasm, and tabletop RPG topics sent in from around the world.
Just for another role.
Hello! And welcome to Season 32, Episode 20 of the Happy Jacks RPG podcast. My name is Kimmy.
My name is Kurt.
I'm Minerva.
And I am Mo.
We have Minerva beaming in from Chicago right now, which is why our introduction was a little odd because I think I didn't plan. Sorry, I should have told everyone how to do it. So
That
that
was
my bad. You were on it. So yeah, welcome Minerva. It's been a while. Last time you were here for an AP, so thank you for joining our advice show.
Yep. Yay!
Yay.
In today's
slots
episode,
I'm available.
oh yeah, absolutely. In today's episode, Araya from New Jersey asks about running a campaign set in a city. Eugene from Boston wants advice on running Decima as a one-shot. And Captain Kurt from Alaska reflects on JackerCon.
had nothing to do with me.
Jack
No.
JackerCon.
Okay.
Yeah. If you'd like to contribute a question or story to the show, you can email us at happyjacksrpg@gmail.com.
Blurb.
That's happyjacksrpg@gmail.com.
Blurb.
And I'd just like to personally thank everyone who's pitched in and thrown in some emails and sent us some emails. I am less stressed out, but if you still want to send emails, please do. We're setting up a new system actually where you can send in like messages through Discord. So in case you're like me and like neurodivergent and you were like, I will send an email and then immediately forget, like until you're next, like somewhere like driving and someplace you absolutely cannot send an email and that's when you remember next. So that way, like if you're sitting in Discord, you're like, oh, I should send an email. Like you don't even have to leave Discord. You can just type it in there and you don't have to like trust that you will remember later because you will.
Ergonomics.
I check my Discord even less often than I check my email. So,
yeah.
but
You know.
I do still need to write that email.
Yeah. All right. Announcements. Our next game days is November 4th, Saturday, November 4th. So if you wanted to come join us for a whole bunch of really fun games, there's already, I think, like 3 games posted, or maybe they're just talking about them. I don't know. But if you join the Discord, it's completely free, super fun. We usually have a really great assortment of games being run. Every game is required to use safety tools and follow specific guidelines. And yeah, it's usually super fun. So come check it out. You can join the Discord at happyjacks.org/Discord. And so November 4th is the next one. And it's a little wiggly because we have people in all different time zones. So
Right.
someone running
I
it.
was going to ask. I mean, of course I know
Yes.
what game days is.
Yes.
Will be. But for any new
Currently.
listeners who are
Yes.
just coming in
Yes.
on this episode, what is
Welcome.
game days?
So game days is our community game days. We think it's funny to spell it with a DAZE, so that's what we call it. But so you can just join the Discord. There's a whole section there where you can come join in games. You can run games if you're at a certain level in the server, just so we make sure it's people who are running the games really understand the community culture. So once you get to, I think it's level 2 in the Discord, which just means you've like talked for, I think, like 20 minutes or something like that. Like it's very minimal. Then you can run a game or you can just join the games, and it doesn't cost anything. You do not have to watch the shows or any of that stuff. I mean, if you're listening to this, you're already listening or watching and consuming the content, but it's not a requirement. So if you have friends who just want to find a really amazing, safe, fun, inclusive place to game, the Discord's a fantastic place for that. And then every other month we have just these like game days.
So this is the answer to the question of, hey, Kimmy, where can I find groups to game with?
Exactly. Like
Okay,
we've
yes.
built this in now. So we have JackerCon, which is our big like blowout that's like 4 days in a row once a year. And then every other month we have one of these days, which kind of spill into other days because like someone's running it on, November 11th in their time zone, which is November 3rd in your time zone, or November, whatever.
Are they on Mars? I mean,
I was
I
like
wasn't
some
gonna
serious
say
time
that.
skipping here.
I wasn't going to say that.
I mean, we have people playing in like Australia and stuff, so it's very
but
possible.
it's not
It
a
won't be
week
8
away.
days difference.
Oh no, I'm sorry. What did I say?
It's at 11th and 3rd.
Oh, sorry. No. I'm sorry. It's because November is 11, so in my brain, like I was picturing. Sorry, yeah. No, if they're on Mars, then-
November 11th is an important day. I'm sure that's why it sprung in your head.
Yes. That also. But I just keep picturing it in my head as 11. I also typed it on the Discord wrong the first time. I had to fix it. So yes, I'm sorry. So if you're
Super
running
professional.
it, some people are super professional. I'm also very tired.
The reason
November
we're doing this
4th,
skit.
some people might play on November 3rd in their time zone. Everything's fine. Everything's cool.
We're all
All
fine
good.
here.
We're fine
This is
here.
all fine. This
Thank
is
you.
fine.
Everything's fine.
good.
Also, we wanted to do a Big Bad Con recap, but let's do our Indie Designer of the Month real quick.
Yes.
Since it is the beginning of a new month, very exciting. Welcome to October, spooky season.
Yes.
Our new Indie Designer of the Month is Monroe Wells Soto. They, a queer transmasc Latin designer. You can find his work at Monroe. That's MONROEROE
I love
dot
that.
itch.io, which I love. Every time I say that, I like giggle and smile. It's very funny. Yeah, they're also at Eldritch Crow on Twitter. And the game we're talking about this week, because it's the beginning of spooky season, spoopy, whatever,
Yes, all of that.
Yes.
Both.
all the things, is a game called Spell Jar. It's a 2-player journaling game where the players take turns rolling dice to create a spell jar, like a potion jar, attempting to guess the results and contemplate what they would change to make it better and more effective. It's basically like a really cozy 2-person game. There's a lot of like really great reviews on it. And it's really easy to incorporate it into other games, like a mini game, some people were saying. And also it's fantastic by itself and creates a really interesting relationship between the two characters in like kind of a fun, like low stakes way that where it's like back and forth a lot of things. And the dice really kind of evidently can take it in different ways that is unexpected. So it has really amazing reviews. It's usually $6, but it's on sale right now for $3. So you can get this awesome 2-player journaling game for $3 at monroe.itch.io.
Monroe.
Yes.
Monroe.
So super excited. Then their games are just very, very cute, and I'm really excited about them.
It does
And-
sound super cute.
And I was just like, spell. Make a spell. It's October. Ready, go. Okay. So yeah.
Yay.
So, and yeah, thank you, Monroe, for agreeing to be our Indie Designer of the Month for October.
The coolest spell my wife ever came up with in a game was Summon Bartender.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
She was playing a bard, and she got
I was gonna say,
she
does
got
this require
Summon
gestures or
Bartender.
components?
Yeah, yes. Well, I mean, it was somatic and verbal components. I
Okay,
think,
okay,
yeah.
okay,
But, because this is not how you summon a bartender.
No.
No, that's rude.
No.
Yeah.
I mean,
All right. So, Big Bad Con recap.
I wasn't
Big
there. I
Bad
don't know.
Con recap. I went to Big Bad Con.
Me too.
Yay! It
I
was.
will one day.
Yes, you should. 100%.
Come on through. I thought Big Bad Con was awesome.
It was great.
Yeah, was that your first time, Kimmy?
Yeah, I hadn't
Oh,
been
wow.
before. So,
So, what were you? Let me ask you some questions.
okay, do it.
What were your expectations, and how did it measure up, or not?
I had always heard about Big Bad Con as like a very tight knit little con that's like where indie designers go and meet each other.
Mhm.
I was very nervous. It was like the vibe, like not the vibe, but like I was acting and feeling like the like first day of school. I'm gonna
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
There's gonna
yeah,
be the
yeah.
cool kids table. I'm not gonna sit there and like
I mean, you are
Who will talk to me?
Right,
you are an indie game designer. I mean,
I am, but like I mean like it's one of those
Not
things
in
too.
that circle yet.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
Working into the circle.
yeah, you have to like do the thing and you have to like not awkwardly introduce yourself, which I'm not great at. Like I just end up just going, "Hi, I'm Kimmy. Hi, yeah, I like your stuff. You're cool. I follow you on Twitter. I don't know if you know who yet." Like, yeah, it's the whole thing. there ended up being and then I guess this is like a new development, like a whole other layer of like streamers networking, which I did
Ooh.
not pack clothes for because that's like a whole different type of networking.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like indie game, it's like, hey, this is my sweatshirt that I've been wearing for 3 days. That's got my logo on it. It's cool. And then like streamers all look really nice all the time.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I was just like, oh crap. So
So
Clara and I were like rooming together, and we were both trying to like help each other out with like, because we'd packed for Indie Game Design Con, and it was like suddenly this is like the who's who up and coming of the streamer universe, you know, AP Performer Con, and I was like, I didn't plan for this con.
I
didn't
didn't
get
get
the
the
memo.
memo. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yes.
Did not get the memo. Well, it was sort of new. It was like, okay.
but even though you weren't prepared, how did you feel you were received?
I think it went really well, honestly. Because I went mostly focusing on Golden Lasso games. Like I was like, because you can't do two things effectively. Like you can go and you can promote like Happy Jacks and streaming, or you can go like I can't do both effectively. I can do both, but not to the extent that I wanted to.
You wanted to focus.
Yeah, I wanted to focus, and I
Sure.
really,
Focusing is
especially,
smart.
yeah, and I really wanted to get Starscape play tested by like new people, and especially new people who are really into the indie game scene, which went great. And yeah, I think it went really well, and I ended up connecting with a lot of streamers too. You know, when you're there, it's like, you know, eventually it's a small con. They bumped it to 1,000 this year, but it still seems super small because like we're used to strategic cons, which are between 1 and 2,000 usually. Like
Yeah, Eric usually gives the numbers that are somewhere around 2 to 2,400.
yeah, somewhere in there. And that was more spread out physically, so it didn't feel like that. But there was like this big center area where everyone kept coming back to. So I ended up actually like a lot of people ended up connecting with me even for streaming stuff, which is really cool. And I had little badge ribbons that for Happy Jacks and for Golden Lasso games, and a lot of people like knew about like that I didn't knew about either Happy Jacks or Golden Lasso games.
Awesome.
And like in a way that was like, hey, yeah, no, I do this. Oh, I love that. You did that. And I'm not used to that.
I
Like
mean, it's that any award-winning thing, you
a
know.
little maybe. I don't know. But that was
reaches that
yeah, that
far.
was the thing that I was
Work that in there.
yeah. Yeah. That was the thing I was delighted by, but also was a new experience because I'm used to people who know me through like, you know, through Happy Jacks or through Fair, or like people who have a personal connection to me having this stuff.
Right.
And it was the first time I'd really run into people who had no idea who I was and also liked the stuff
Loved
I
your
did.
work, right.
And that was kind of cool, both for Happy Jacks and for things. There was a couple people who are actually kind of like big streamer people. And it turns out like they're in the Discord and stuff like that. They're not like, they mostly joined for like the gaming community, which we were talking about a few minutes ago. So I don't know if they're like out and like open about who they are on the Discord. So I don't want to like call it out.
Sure.
But I was a little bit like, oh shit, because I was like handing out flyers and this one person walks in and they're like, oh, that's Happy Jacks, right? Do you have something to do with Happy Jacks? And I was like, yeah, I own it and run it. Like I signed up.
A little bit.
Jimmy, your reputation is preceding you at this point. Come on.
Well, like they didn't know who I was at like all. Like they had no
Right.
concept. And they're like, oh, like I'm on the Discord. I've been playing games there. I don't listen to any of the shows. I'm like, that's okay. Like the Discord's totally separate. That's like the community part. You don't have to listen to the shows. But it was just like
Happy Jacks.
I am Happy Jacks. It's one of those things
am.
like there's no way to like answer that question without seeming like an asshole. So I just tried to do it as nicely as I possibly could. Like, oh yeah, I actually own and run it. It's fine. But yeah, it was cool. I did have I ran 2 official Starscape games that people could sign up for. They both got filled and they both went really well. There were some Happy Jacks people in both, which is really cool. And then the woman who wrote Thirsty Sword Lesbians signed up for the second one, which I didn't know because I was not organized enough to like look at the sign up and be like, who do I know on this list?
Right. Yeah.
So like I walk in and I'm sitting up and then she walks in and sits down and I'm just like, oh shit.
Right.
Oh fuck.
Right.
So yeah, I think she ended up loving it. So I mean, I don't know. She seemed to really enjoy herself. And then like literally as I was like rolling my suitcase out on Sunday to go catch my plane, she's like, "Oh, are you leaving?" And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Oh, wanted to know if you wanted me to run Starscape for you." I was like, "Oh shit, my plane leaves in 90 minutes." Yeah.
The answer is
please.
yes.
Yeah, I mean, the answer was yes, but I can't because I
Right,
have
right,
to
right,
catch my
right, right,
flight.
right.
Yes.
And,
And we'll talk about that in the
Later, yeah.
future.
Mhm,
So yeah, so
Let me give you my card as
Yeah.
I'm running into this cab.
mhm.
yeah. But, so I got some amazing, really good feedback, some really constructive thoughts on it from both playtest groups, which was great because I think because that con is people like when I run it at Strategicon and I run it at other cons, you always have people who aren't really familiar with PBTA, which is fine because that's also a playtest group you want to have.
Right.
But Big Bad Con, the people who are actually signing up for games at Big Bad Con are really familiar with indie games.
Like Vincent and McGay Baker are walking around.
Yeah, they had breakfast. They did like group breakfast.
Right.
So it's like, hey, yeah, and like Captain Kirk got in one of their games. It was super cool. Like
Mhm.
Vincent Baker was GMing. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. Yeah, so it was really interesting, and it was, I don't know, it was very surreal. I met in person a bunch of people that I have followed and interacted with for
Mhm.
years.
Mhm.
Sometimes we wouldn't realize it at first for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I had one friend, Yoshi, who does a lot of game design stuff with me on the Magpie Discord, and he and I have been talking back and forth and been like internet friends for years.
Right.
But it's one of those things where we're just like this little picture of
Right.
ourselves. And like I was running a games on demand pickup game of Decima, and we're running it, and at one point I was like, oh yeah, they had decided to build a sci-fi game
Mhm.
or a sci-fi setting. So I was like, oh yeah, it's kind of like in my game I'm playtesting. I playtested this morning, Starscape, and he was like,
Wait a minute.
yeah, he's like, you're doing Starscape? I was like, yeah. He's like, I'm Yoshi. I was like, oh, like hug it out, and like the rest of the table's like, what is happening right now? But it's just kind of like, so it's very interesting to like have this convergence of all these online and internet connections, like
Right.
finally in like human form.
Nice.
So it's kind of
Meeting in
interesting.
meet space. It's a
And
weird
Meeting in meet
concept.
That's
space
weird.
is weird.
Yeah.
And you realize how much you have no idea what these people look like.
Yep.
You kind of like assume, and then you're like, is that them? I have no idea if that's them.
Right.
I don't know. Is that, can you go at like casually so
Mhm.
then I can like walk over and know?
It's that thing of when you listen to like DJs on the radio and such, and they never look like their voice.
No,
They absolutely never look, and I imagine that we do not look like our voices either.
no.
Um,
I doubt it. I don't know. Someone write in an email. Tell us if we look.
yeah, I would actually be
Like
very
our
curious
voices?
to know
Yeah.
if I sound like my face,
Yeah.
or if I look like my voice.
I don't like my voice, so I hope I don't look like it.
Well, you're very handsome. So
Oh, well, thank you.
And I happen to like your voice.
Yeah, that makes one of us. Well, two out of
Look,
Two out of
nobody
three.
likes
3 out of
to
1,
hear
man.
themselves recorded for the first 5 albums.
that part. My follow up to
Yeah.
yes and everything Kimmy said, like it's different from Strategicon and many other cons because there are no minis people, there are no D&D people. It is all indie games, and it is wall to wall indie games, and it's people doing really amazing, weird stuff in the gaming space in a way that is very cool.
Mhm.
And it's definitely a place you can go and play kind of, I'm not even going to say niche. I mean, I played Coyote and Crow
Mhm.
with one of the designers, and that was
That's
such an awesome experience.
Yeah.
And it's a game that's doing some cool stuff in some weird ways, and I loved it.
Mhm.
I also played World Wide Wrestling with like some people who loved wrestling and people who like had gotten on TikTok an hour before the game to figure out what wrestling was, and it was so awesome and fun. And it's definitely a game where you will really be I think rewarded for taking risks, and what you sign up with. It's a place where you will be rewarded for just talking to people
Mhm.
because everybody is doing such cool weird stuff. If they're cosplaying, if they're streamers, who are super approachable, You know, if they are game designers who, you know, would love to chat about something they designed or something else.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
I drove up there with another podcaster in the space, and we talked game mechanics for 400 miles, and
Wow.
I've had that drive.
Yeah.
you know, like like I met so many people doing such cool things, and you know, people have come from far and wide. Many people have jumped on a plane and gotten visas to come to this game
Mhm.
to be very expressive in the RPG space.
Yeah.
And that does not even cover all of the really cool panels that they have
Yeah.
that
I
they
didn't go to any of them.
likewise
Yeah.
that they don't record because they're like, we want to have a genuine experience
Mhm.
as opposed to something that gets packaged,
Mm.
you know,
Mhm.
and rehashed that people will like wonder,
In mass
am I
produced.
accountable for the thing I said in 2023?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
or for the question I asked that like really was trying to seek understanding
Mhm.
and not be offensive,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Um
I think it was really interesting too. Like it's like there are some people, like I think there were actually some D&D games there. Jason was
Okay.
talking about it for a while. He's like, I think I'm gonna go play some D&D. I'm like,
okay.
you're going to Big Bad Con to play D&D. I mean, come on. I mean, it's fine, but it's also like people are walking around handing out like one sheet
Yeah.
RPGs, like games. Like there was a karaoke game, like a
Mhm.
karaoke RPG that they were
What?
playing in one room. Yeah, like, and it's just
That
like
sounds dangerous.
it was, yeah.
Yes. But fun,
Also, like,
dangerous.
I hate karaoke so much. Like, I actually bonded. I made a new friend, my friend Ned. And I like he runs the New Jersey Web Fest, but like we were sitting there together and like we bonded immediately over how we both hate karaoke so much. Like we hate going to karaoke.
So you like to sing to people, but you
Yes.
don't want to hear people sing.
No. I just don't like karaoke. I love listening to people sing. I hate karaoke because if I'm gonna sing, like I want it to be something like I've rehearsed and like have down cold. Like I don't want, and I don't want
you don't rehearse your standard karaoke choices.
to.
Is-
Why?
You
No,
don't, you don't have a.
It's
Oh,
also
okay.
just uncomfortable. But like,
enough.
but yeah. So he and I bonded over breakfast and like hanging out and like, oh yeah, New Jersey Web Fest. Also, we hate karaoke. So that was like, you never know like what you're gonna become best friends with about.
karaoke. At one point, I karaoke 7 nights a week
Yeah.
for several
Ooh.
months.
Yeah, that's just, it's not my jam. Like I've done it. Like, oh man, Abria and Joey are super into karaoke.
Oh, yeah.
And Jason, they love
Yeah.
karaoke so much. So there has been many a night where I have been a good friend, like good soldier, and
you know
like
what?
sat through
If
karaoke.
if they want, I mean, I'll dive on that sword for you. I'll go with them if they want to do karaoke and they need a fourth or I don't know. Do you need a foursome
Is
for
there a
karaoke?
minimum?
Is it like golf? I don't know.
That's a different kind of karaoke. Like,
Oh my, no, that's not what I meant.
It
but
is
anyway.
9:30 over here.
Oh yeah,
Happy
sorry.
Jack night.
Yes, Happy Jack's nice. But yeah, anyway, it was a really cool experience.
Happy Jacks After Dark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I learned a lot. Like I think next time I don't know what I'm gonna do differently. It's like this torn between I want to run my games as much as possible so people play them,
Mm-hmm.
but I also feel like I missed out because I didn't get to play in anyone else's games.
You didn't play any games?
I only ran games.
Oh wow!
I ran a bunch of games. I ran so many games, which is why like I never lose my voice. I had like almost no voice on Monday.
Oh, wow.
But luckily, I have like a microphone set up at my classroom after COVID with masking. So I was like, okay, happy 4th grade. Okay.
Had nothing to do with
Yeah.
the whiskey.
No. I
No.
actually had a little bit of that. I did get a little drunk, but that was mostly margaritas. And I can handle, like, that doesn't make me lose my voice.
Uh-huh.
All right. There's if there's anything I can do, it's I know how to project
And,
Yeah.
drink,
and sing
drink.
and drink. Yes.
There we go.
But running that many games, like,
Oh yeah,
It
no,
was
that'll
all
do
that,
it. Yeah.
well, and also we were all masked, which was really great. Like, it was great having a
But
con that was
it-
that safe. But after
But
a
you
while,
gotta-
you're projecting through the
Mhm.
mask.
Yeah.
It really takes a toll on your
We're
voice. So
shouting all day.
running Starscape and then Decima and then like the evening and then again like the next day. So I ran out of all the Decimas I took. I took like 20, which also like the TSA does not like it when you pack a whole bunch of cards in a carry-on.
That part.
So I don't know. It's a thing.
Next time, talk to your driver.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Next time I'll have to take more or something, but maybe everyone will own it by next con, and I won't have to take it all. Who knows?
Nope.
Yeah.
Oh, I
That's a
mean,
bit more.
then you have to bring out Decima 2.
Yeah, Decima 2.
Electric Boogaloo.
Well, I
There
mean,
you
'cause you don't want to worry about market saturation.
Yeah, no.
So
Start doing specialized
Make
decks.
the
It's a sci-fi
expansion
deck.
sets.
right,
The
exactly.
Wild
Yeah.
West deck, yeah. That's sort of the plan eventually, but I keep designing other games. So, all right, we should actually do.
Oh,
a
Oh
show.
yeah,
we got a show to
Yeah,
do.
let's do a
Yes,
fucking show.
there's an actual thing.
My
Then. We
bad,
have
my
an
bad.
agenda.
Who wants to take?
I've been doing a lot of talking, so I feel
will
like someone else.
do the first
All
one.
right,
Me,
there you
I'll
go.
take mailbag.
Okay, mailbag 1. Go Minerva.
Oh, Minerva.
Grand Mistress Kimmy and the Gamers of Legend. Aria from New Jersey here, and I decided to answer your call for email. I recently took the advice from a previous email to try and run a game at my friendly local game store, and I have to say it's been a rewarding experience. I took over a campaign from one of the store employees, running the pre-written 5e Dragonlance campaign, and the players have been wonderful and even more importantly, reliable.
That's
Turns out when you're paying to be there, yeah, you make it a priority to show up. However, the campaign is winding down, and I'm in the works to plan the next one. I'm not a fan of pre-written adventures, so I'm doing a homebrew setting. I want to try a more character-focused, driven campaign, and so I thought that doing a city one rather than an exploration one could be a good way to encourage a character-driven story. I created the city and gave it some conflict, and then I plan to start with a game of the any-winning RPG tool Decima, and I've never really run a city campaign, and would be curious if you had any advice on how it might differ from the typical fantasy murder hobo game. Stay jackin', Aria from New Jersey. P.S. Thank you, Kimmy, for giving a platform to a diverse set of hosts.
Yay. Thank you for watching.
Yeah.
And
I'm raising
listening,
my
whatever you
hand. I'm
do.
raising
Yay.
my hand. I'm raising my hand.
All right. I do want to make sure Minerva is not sitting in studio, so it's super easy for us to like get on a tangent or get on a roll. So Minerva, if you have something to say, like
Jump in.
indicate it.
Feel free to interrupt.
Yeah, and we will listen. We'll be good listeners with that. So so running a campaign in a city.
Hey, Aria. I've spent too much time thinking about this. I'm going to try to keep it brief. I love the idea of playing in a city, and I was always frustrated with how D&D did not support that. You don't get as many points staying in a town and being friends and doing jobs as you do going out and killing bigger and bigger, progressively bigger monsters. I think it's really cool when you have a, I'm going to say a moral through line for your campaign. And you encourage and support that. I made a game called Shibuya Nights, and it is all about improving your reputation as opposed to going up levels. And what that means is you can lie to people and you could take things that aren't yours, or you could do things that are duplicitous. But because the moral theme is kind of your good-ish, people have cousins and you have bosses and you know people who are related to the people you're doing bad to. And so just really creating the network to be inconvenient for people who are going against the moral thread of your game. Blades in the Dark does this in a very awesome and interesting way because you don't play characters, you play scoundrels. So you're all bad people and you're set out to do bad things. And they also create this very interesting social web so that when you roll poorly, the social web comes against you in a very interesting way. And I find that very exciting in city games. Happy to talk more on the Discord. Mo.
I'm going to cite two examples. Ironically, considering what you just said, is one of them is Dungeons and Dragons, because look into the Eberron setting.
Oh yeah.
I mean, usually when you're working in a high fantasy game, you're talking about cities that are maybe 10,000 people. The city of Sharn, the city of Towers, is supposedly more like Manhattan of 500,000 people. So it is the largest city, and you don't ever have to you never have to leave the city. And it gives all kinds of suggestions about various factions that can serve as patrons to your group. You've got research institutions. You've got political individuals. You've got criminal criminal organizations that can serve as your patron, and you dive down into the depths of this city that has been built up and up and up and up on itself over the last 1,000 years or however many. And you never have to leave the city. It absolutely can still work that way. The second example that I'm going to cite is actually from another AP not hosted on this network. But if you have not had a chance to check out The Unsleeping City on Dimension 20, which is set in a modern, it is run using D&D 5e. It is set in a modern New York City. And the point I want to bring up here is the city is a character. The spirit of the city, whatever you're doing, should permeate should permeate the way that the game feels, in the same way that an NPC, a vital NPC would, like a patron or captain of the ship if you were on some sort of a either ocean going or space going campaign. Just the character of the city is really important to molding the player characters' attitudes. So they did a really good job of making New York that kind of a character.
But I think that's kind of what I mean by moral through line. Like there should be almost like, I think the social web almost creates a culture. And social norms and expectations. And I think that is where the city feels like a place. Like the city has to have a personality.
I mean, and it doesn't even have to be the same personality across the entire city.
It
shouldn't. You're right.
Yeah.
I mean,
No,
New York, of course.
From...
So, go ahead.
Oh, I was just it differs. There's different neighborhoods within the city itself.
Oh yeah.
And I remember like Mac played a game called City of the Veil. I think it was the engine. City of Mists, and that was really fun in that all four characters were from different kind of like had different neighborhoods and different backstories on it, but they all converged somehow in that game. And I just really liked Terry Gamble's character, because she was a hairdresser. It was pretty cool.
I mean, you might have boroughs and such. The city of New York is 5 boroughs, 6 counties, and Brooklyn is very different from Staten Island. Is very different from the Bronx. And
and
south of the park is way different from Harlem. So
I mean, also the city we live in, LA, like super different depending on where you're at.
The Valley?
The Valley.
North side and south side Chicago. Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah. Cubbies or White Sox. That's
that's hard.
Oh god.
And I think that's something you really have to lean into when you're running a game in a city, because if you're running a campaign, you can, cross continents or whatever, you can find those different flavors. A city, even a big city like LA, like county is like 30 million people. It's massive. But like you have to lean into those different areas, having those different flavors, those different cultural touchstones, or it ends up very bland and it ends up very, very samey. Yeah. And that's not fun for your players at all.
There's a reason why you refer to these city environments as cosmopolitan. They are a melting pot, and when you're building the world and you're putting pastiches in various areas, the city is all of that in microcosm. And you get immediate border crossings between those different cultures.
So when you're planning your city, I think like the first thing, like, is it gonna be like Eberron, like where there's like different layers to the city, where you've got like the literal upper tier is like actually like in the sky, and then you've got like the lower city that sun
never sees.
You never get sunlight. or is it going to be something like LA where it's like spread out over this massive distance that's like bigger than almost.
The city of LA is ridiculously huge.
Right.
I mean, just within the city, not a county.
Yeah.
City of LA
So
is
big.
70 miles
Yeah.
from Chatsworth to San Pedro.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous.
So big. And is that going to be the type of city you're going to have? Is it going to be more like New York where there's some tall buildings and short buildings and all these things, and you've got like it all jammed into a small area,
In a little island.
a little island, literal island,
Yeah.
so this is all really cool stuff that you can figure out. Maybe it's like Venice where there's literal like
yes.
rivers
Little
flowing through
streets.
instead of streets and
Now,
stuff
on
like
that
that.
same note, I used to live in Tokyo, and it was interesting because there was a culture near train stations, and like they had, if you were near a train station, it was more like, and if you were farther away, you were in the city, but kind of almost in the country.
London is kind of like
Yeah,
that
yeah,
with the,
absolutely.
with the tube spots,
Yeah.
the tube stops
Mhm.
rather. London, you talk about, I'm in Piccadilly or I'm in Paddington or I'm in,
It's
Deptford.
like you're in this thriving shopping area.
Sure, yeah.
But if you're not near the train station,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
It's a
So,
desert.
Yeah. How are people going to get around your city?
mhm.
How long does it take to get from point to point in a city?
Yeah.
That is huge.
Does public transit work?
Yeah, right, exactly. One of the
It
things they
does.
bring up in Sharn is because it's so vertical, and there are all kinds of sky bridges, roads connecting the towers. You get up that high, the wind gets crazy,
Mm.
and you get blown off of one of those sky bridges, and you're falling for a long time.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh.
And Featherfall comes in. handy.
Featherfall comes in. They actually sell. They sell
Featherfall
Featherfall
rings.
tokens.
Yeah.
They're rechargeable, but they're only good ones. Like they're essentially a consumable item. And so he's like, oh yeah, I'll pay my 5 gold and have this just in case.
But because it's a consumable product
Yes,
that
exactly.
like people all over sell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And
And then pay to recharge.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Are you able to freely move throughout the city, or are
Yeah.
there things
Right.
like the Attack on Titan where there's like different level
Oh,
parts
yeah.
of the city where you can't actually leave the city for any reason, or you can't get into certain parts of the city without permission, things like that.
Are there parts of the city? Are there parts of the city like Staten Island that people are like they know it exists, but I don't really want to go there.
Mhm.
Like the
Because they have a
valley.
rival
Yes.
city. Yeah.
I
Sorry,
love
it's a very
the valley is awesome.
Yeah, the valley is super cool,
Yes.
and the people who live there are great. I think another thing you have to think about with a city is there's going to be a lot more tangles and backstory,
Yeah.
especially, I
Mhm.
mean, even if you have the party just arriving, they've never been there before, just by living in this smaller confined area, they're not going to be able to get away from their problems as easily
Mhm.
as they would in a campaign where they're able to literally leave this city and then go on to another continent or whatever you
Right.
want them to do. So keep track of those things and make their actions have consequences, whether they're good or bad. Like consequences don't always have to be bad. But like, you also need to decide, are you going to have things like, okay, the Avengers in New York, yes, they saved the city. They also destroyed a whole
Oh, yeah.
lot of other stuff.
Right.
Department
Like,
of Damage Control.
Yeah, like, is that going to be a thing you want to play into your campaign? You definitely want to talk with the players over that. Like, that's an interesting plot point that might be something that worth exploring. I don't think they're probably going to be doing as much damage as like the Hulk, but you never know. It depends on what level
You
they are,
never
I guess.
know.
Yeah.
A Goliath barbarian can do a lot.
Yeah.
The Netflix show Arcane was really interesting.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
Kind of creating the haves, the have-nots, and the people who could go between.
Yeah.
And I think
And it's all connected by just that one bridge.
yeah. And
Yeah.
the problem is when you're playing Decima, anything could happen.
Yeah.
That too.
I like the idea of using Decima to create neighborhoods
Mm-hmm.
within
Mhm.
the city. And you don't have to necessarily think of them in the same way that we think of neighborhoods here,
Yeah.
because we tend to think very horizontal about neighborhoods. But if you've got arcologies,
Mhm.
essentially,
Mhm.
if you've got a very vertical city, like you mentioned before, the cloud top area where the literal clouds are going past your penthouse,
Mhm.
versus the poor schmucks who live down on level 1.
Mm-hmm.
you know, Dredd. Judge Dredd,
Yeah,
right?
Judge Dredd did that
Mega City 1, right? The massive complexes that are half a kilometer tall and all that. I mean, that kind of a thing. That is a city into itself.
Yeah.
30,000 people in that building.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So there's a lot of cool ideas to play with, I think, with the city. For building it, but I think it's really important to make sure with a city too that, especially if you're using Decima, lean into and maybe do some extra location cards to make sure you get NPCs.
Yeah.
That and
Build that population density in there.
Yeah.
Oh, and the other thing, I love this mechanic. I don't know how much it actually fits in with Decimo specifically, but I love this mechanic. The I know a guy mechanic.
Listen,
it's so
brilliant.
important in a city.
It's critical.
And also, it's really helpful in real life too.
And I love just kind of randomizing whether or not that guy is reliable. Whether or not they show up. It's like, you know, I always remember that moment in Pulp Fiction where the guy's on the phone and he says, "Oh, you're sending the wolf?"
That's all you have to say.
Literally, like the problem is solved, and the audience doesn't know what's going on. But, you know, obviously he succeeded at a role.
Yeah.
And, you know.
I could see somebody using, because how often do people use, unless they're playing a bard, sorcerer, warlock, or paladin, how often do people use charisma as their dump stat?
Yeah.
Right? But you then have their charisma modifier be the number of times they can use I know a guy mechanic.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Nobody would want to use charisma as a dump stat.
In a city, you know, it's so important.
Yeah, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah.
It's
Also,
and I love the idea of like, I know a guy, he's a little flaky.
Yeah, I love that too. Or maybe just flaky with you right now because there's not a lot he can get from you back, or like things like that. Like having those relationships and economics of those relationships is really important in cities. Also, make sure when you're building your city, you're creating the politics. Because even if you're not actually going to be in a political game, like whether it's a democracy or whether there's a monarchy or whether, you know, something like that, like figuring out how it works, is it a city state, you know, whatever it is can really play into your game, even if you never have plans to like have them meet the monarchy or whatever.
And I wouldn't write names for the monarchy because the more you write, the less the characters are going to engage with that.
Yeah.
But
But that, I mean, if they're playing Decima, the players might make it up.
They may generate it.
Yeah,
but that's the thing. The GM doesn't write that.
Yes.
The players write that. Yeah. And then they have a sense of ownership
that's
about
the game they want to play.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah,
right.
that's exactly like, because then that's them telling you, I want this to be a monarchy because I want to interact with the monarch, and it's basically being able to look at all their cards in a game of poker. Like, what are you gonna do? Oh, you want to interact with the monarchy? Okay, cool.
And the thing,
what will you do for this third of a kind?
Yeah.
A monarch is much more powerful in his kingdom or her kingdom than they are in their capital city. It's the council of advisors who hold major sway in the capital city, much more so than the monarch directly.
Unless the monarch needs a small cadre of trustworthy people to go out and be their eyes and ears.
Yes, absolutely.
But who would want to play that game?
Oh, sign me up. Sign me up. I want in. So yeah. Oh, I love this idea. For you. This is going to be a lot of fun.
I love the idea of city games.
Yeah, please write in and tell us like what you do, what you make, and yeah. And as you're going, like I'd love to like creating the city is one thing, but sustaining a game, like I think the other thing, like make sure you have like this a vast array. And if you look at like the Eberron books and stuff and the Eberron adventures and things like that, like they have libraries, they have laboratories, they have like just build out like all this interesting stuff, museums, historical sites, random ass parks and statues, like have all this weird stuff in your game because it makes the city feel real.
Right.
Yes.
Because every city, like real or fake, has the thing where you're walking down the street and you're like, that's a weird ass mural. I wonder where that came from. I wonder why it's there. okay, and you never actually care enough to like really do that. If
That
you
is to
googled it, you
say,
could probably
I
figure
mean,
it out.
The
Yeah.
PCs never look into it. and-
Yeah.
No, exactly. I mean,
It's
you're
not
walking down
clickable.
you're walking down Hill Street in downtown Los Angeles,
Mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden you see a train, like a railroad,
Yeah.
at a 42-degree angle
Yep.
that goes
50
between
feet.
that goes about 65 feet.
Yeah.
It's called Angel's Flight. Look it up. It's a funicular. It's awesome. It still, to this day, I think costs $0.25 to ride.
And I
Yeah.
think it's the last train of its kind.
No, there's 2 other still funiculars
There
still
you
in the
go.
world, but
There
none
you
other in this country.
So if you're like Kurt, you also Google it immediately when you see the weird mural. You don't just walk by it. You
Well,
find
I-
everything about it
I
and
use-
reserve all that information for next time you're on the podcast.
Oh.
I used to lead a downtown architectural walking tour of
Oh,
Los
okay.
Angeles,
Well,
so
But yeah, like just all that stuff is like flavor, and you never know when like they're gonna be fighting some fire mage, and they're gonna be like, oh, hey, the park 2 blocks
Mhm.
down has a big fountain.
Mhm,
Let's
mhm.
fucking go.
there
Like,
we go.
I mean, you never know. Like, so the more you build out, the more they will use it.
I want to just mention the biggest decision you will ever make setting up this game world, and that is how fast does communication travel?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
That is important.
Are there cell phones? Are there messenger pigeons?
Yeah.
Are there, messenger people? Like,
Communicators.
By the way, ravens can carry twice what a pigeon can, and they're much smarter. Use ravens instead of or just corvids in general instead of pigeons.
Yeah. I feel like that they're also smart enough to like barter with you though.
Yeah,
and be
they
like,
are actually.
Yeah. Like, fuck it. Give me
And-
another button. I just want another fucking button.
I just love the
Damn it.
idea.
It is
that
not shiny enough.
NPCs send you on a randomly generated adventure, just to go and you got to go do a side plot in
Mhm.
order to like
Yeah.
execute the thing.
I basically did one of those in my campaign as a side plot while they were.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens. All right. Thank you so much,
The next one.
Arya,
Yay.
for that amazing email. Please update us. I'm super curious about how this is going to go and all that stuff,
I
and
got
what your city looks like.
the next one.
Why don't you take the next one, because it'll be really amusing
Yeah.
for me to take the third one.
There we go. Dear Kimmy plus 1d4 host.
Okay, rolling one
I
d4.
guess she failed.
One,
um,
rolling one d4. I got a 2. One of us has to leave.
Oh.
No.
Oh. Log out.
Can't
Oh.
both leave.
She's like, I set up the mics. I signed up to run Decima as a one-shot in a 4-hour slot on November 11th. A gaming
This one's actually on November 11th, not November 4th. It's November 11th. So yes.
Armistice Day.
a gaming weekend with a bunch of friends. As I'm thinking about how to structure it, I heard Kimmy mention she'll be running some Decima one-shots at an upcoming con. I can't think of a better person to ask than Kimmy to ask for advice on how to make this a fun experience. Of course, other hosts' experience would be interesting as well. Pause, drink, resume.
Okay.
Okay.
A few specifics of my experience and setup. I have 4 players and a physical deck. I've run Decima before to create a home base for a Deadlands campaign. For that, I found it's very helpful to have something like Rory's story cubes on hand in case a player is struggling for ideas. I've also loosely brought a mechanic from Stealing the Throne, which limits how much a person can come up with an idea, how much detail a person who came up with the idea can flesh it. It works nicely to prevent any single player from overstepping a concept, and it makes it more collaborative.
All right.
Okay.
Drink, pause, resume.
Hydration's good.
Second,
Everyone with misophonia is like, what is happening?
but very related question. The game pitch also says if we have any time left over, we'll run something quick. And rules like lasers and fillings or terrible RPG in our creation. Any thoughts on what will be a good fit or how to structure the first part of the session to make it easier? Thank you for all your years of great content and entertainment. Eugene from Boston. He, him, his. P.S. 1d4. Drink.
That's P to the power of 1d4.
Yeah.
drink.
Oh, so everybody but Kimmy has to drink.
That's 3.
Yep, there we go.
And now sit here and debate. If I need to explain the power of notation, which means power of, now you probably already know.
Just Kurt in this episode.
There we go, Eugene.
I'm not gonna apologize for knowing things.
No, you should. I'm not mocking you. Like you know things. It's cool.
I've run Decima twice. I felt like I had a very full experience, and so the modified Decima answers I'm going to leave to the experts.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. Like at a con table, you'll probably in a 4-hour I can run Decima in less than 2 hours, generally at a convention table. It starts running long when you get a lot of people who know each other really well, who are drinking. And then it suddenly is like a 5-hour Decima game, and you're just like, oh my God, this is great, but okay, we need to stop now. But at a con table, especially when people don't know each other really well, they tend to be more succinct with their answers. And I don't know if you'll need the mechanic to keep people from oversharing, because I found at con tables they tend not to do that. Now you might have one player maybe who needs that, so it's nice to have that in the bag. That's a good idea, Kurt. But generally, even if there's a very verbose player there, they generally are very, especially the first time they play Decima, of like overstepping. They're not quite sure of the limits. They tend to be very respectful of boundaries and how much they're contributing. If anything, on con games, usually I have to like ask follow-up questions to get a little bit more information to kind of get the ball rolling. It's a good idea to have stuff there to get their creativity rolling. I like that suggestion. It's also part of the rules, like if they are playing and they aren't feeling inspired by a card, just exit and give them another card.
Right.
I usually just kind of give a little prompt to them, like if they're like, and they just seem kind of like stumped by a card. And I never say, if you can't think of anything, because they don't like that. It's like, if that one's not speaking to you, or if you feel like that's boring, are better ways to phrase that.
Better, yes.
Yes.
If your imagination is limited.
Yeah.
Let's if I like the phrase, if that's not speaking to you,
Yeah.
feel free to draw another card,
Yeah.
because it doesn't imply any kind of deficiency on the part of the player.
Nope.
It describes this moment. This moment is not right.
Right. And it's not you.
Let's repair this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that turn of phrase.
Yeah, and it's also a big part of it is normalizing the X card. Like people should be Xing cards a lot, because I want them to get cards that make them think of interesting things, but also like I don't want everyone to feel like they're stuck with like whatever card they got, because I'd much rather they get a card that makes them excited to contribute something to the world, because that builds their
engagement.
Their investment in it. Absolutely.
Also, sometimes you get a card that's like, we already answered that question.
100%. Yeah. And that happens a lot, especially when they start getting more verbose. Suddenly they'll add like a lot of detail with one question, and some of it doesn't have anything to do with that question, which is fine. But then later on, when there's a card that would probably have something to do with, a character they already created or a connection or something, it's like, oh, we already kind of answered that. And then we ran into that a lot, because I was running it at, this was obviously sent before Big Bad Con. I was running it a lot at Big Bad Con. And a lot of times we did sci-fi settings, I think every single time. I leave it up to the players. I always like, okay, so what do we want to do? And sometimes players really like picking a specific system. They don't have to. A lot of times now I'm just like, well, why don't we do a crunchy sci-fi, or like Traveler, or blah, blah, blah. Or so picking a general genre or a little bit of a specific sub part of a genre is generally more helpful. Having them come up with characters, giving them a few minutes to do that. Having 3x5 cards so they can write their names of their characters is usually really helpful. And just explaining like, hey, like you don't actually have to come up with something that actually exists in Traveler. You can just be,
right.
the custodian or whatever you want to be. Like, it's fine.
Oh my.
Yeah.
So I use it with my local comic book shop. We have like drink and draws, and we all just come, like a bunch of artists and writers come in, and I brought that, and I've had someone that was working on setting up a story, and they needed a place to put that story in, and I've used that. I have this game for you, and I dealed out all the location cards, and we actually built a cute little city for him to do something. So I've been using it as a world building tool for comic stories and such
Nice.
That's so
with
cool.
everyone.
Yeah.
And so we actually played a little game of that, and it was super fun. And there was no verboseness. They were all just, let's draw this right now. I was like, okay.
I feel like that's like a different kind of verboseness. Like if you're able to sit and draw it, I feel like that's the same as someone who can't draw, like sitting and explaining it in detail.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to use words. You're like, this is exactly what it looks like in my detail. Like
Yes.
with no words.
Top down.
Yeah.
Like this.
So
yeah.
cool.
Here's the fountain that they destroyed like 2 years ago. So I'm like, okay, yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
awesome.
The classic, a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, if you have a 4-hour time slot, Eugene, you might want to actually, like, just run it twice. That's what I do a lot of times. It's like, like, hey, okay, we'll do a sci-fi, and then we'll do something completely different the second time. Some of those players are into that. Strategicon, they've been really into that. Big Bad Con, there was like 2-hour time slots for games on demand. So it's like usually we end around like 75, 90 minutes, so that wasn't quite enough time to do 2. But yeah, if you promised to do lasers and feelings or something like that, pick something that is either incredibly easy to skin, or make sure you start off like saying, okay, we're going to be building a sci-fi setting.
Right.
We're building a ship.
Mhm.
I generally let the people who are doing the one shot of Decima pick what they're doing. Like, and then like explain like, hey, you can do anything. Like Jason ran it at Strategicon and did like bacterium on a slide.
Oh, that's cool.
In a petri dish, yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool, right? So that's my new example of like a small setting.
Right.
Literally the
small?
tiniest you could have.
Really small.
Really tiny.
About 3 inches.
Or like we've done like generation ships or whole solar systems or, quadrants of galaxies and stuff like that. So like kind of giving them that breadth. Now I'm also doing it kind of as a sales pitch. So it's a very different like goal from what you're doing.
Yeah.
So starting with some like limits, some fences on that. I can't think of anything. Walls on that sandbox. There we go. Might be a good idea if you're like, okay, we're gonna make a sci-fi setting, and then we can be ready to whip out lasers and feelings or anything.
And when reskinning lasers and feelings, which I think is an excellent approach, I think it's a great thing to try to like think about thematically what one of the big actions of the game is. And so if you're all goblins trying to steal, maybe it's the internal feelings and the external, being sneaky. Maybe it's the internal feelings and the external driving your mech. Like just try to figure out kind of what is a main action of the game. And maybe could just consider doing little backstory vignettes about when all the players met.
Yeah.
That could be really cool.
Yeah, I mean, Decima should build that for them.
Exactly.
I mean, and it depends on the card you get too. There's literally one card that's like, how did our group first come together and what went well? And then if you get
Flip
it
side.
inverted,
Right.
it's and what went wrong.
But maybe you want to play that scene,
Yeah. Yeah, so be aware of that
You can
and
flesh that out with more details in the play.
Yeah, 100%. And it's not meant to add everything. It's meant to get you started. And there's some people I know who run it and pull out specific cards that they want to make sure are answered. And like as a GM will like themselves present the cards. And there's like in the rule book there's like a bunch of different ways to play it and stuff. But those are generally my go-tos with it. And keeping people moving with it.
It's those teacher skills.
Yeah. It's basically like you, and it depends on the table. Like I've run games that I literally probably could have gotten up and walked away and they would have been amazing. And then there's also games where you feel like you're like hand holding everyone and like pulling answers out of them. And it's a con game. You never know what's going to happen, who's going to sign up, how into it they're going to be, if they're hungover. You never know.
Details.
Life is like
Nuances.
a convention game.
Yes.
You never know what you're going to get.
You're gonna get. Exactly. So true. But yeah, it's also, I mean, we ended up playing an off the books game, like drunk at the bar on Friday. I think it was Friday night. And those are always super weird and interesting too. And like random people show up, and it was a good game. It was that one was the first time I've done like a vertical map. We did a spaceship, but we did it like a vertical one, which was kind of interesting. I was like, okay, so it's nifty. I don't know. Good luck, and please tell me how it goes. Evidently, there's people in the world who don't know me who have and played Decima. It's really strange. So, okay, cool.
Who's going to read Kurt's email?
I think I should.
know.
It's
Kurt will read from Captain Kurt.
yes, a name that I avoided like everything
Which
I could.
Kurt are you, Kurt?
I'm the original Kurt. I am the
Kurt
first
can.
Kurt.
Yes.
I
But
am.
are there any other nom de plumes we could give you, Kurt?
Kurt the first.
I mean, at fair they call me Muffin.
Oh.
So
Oh.
yeah,
Okay.
that's my band name.
Yeah.
Is Muffin.
Okay.
So
I feel like Kurt. We just know you're Kurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kurt.
everybody else you have to specify.
Yeah.
That's how I know I'm the original.
You're
There's
Kurt
Kurt
Prime.
Potts. There's
Exactly.
Last
Kurt
Kurt,
Bauer.
Captain
Yeah,
Kurt,
exactly. Yeah, this is everyone else is the clone. Ahoy! It is I, Captain Kurt, writing from the increasingly dark, chilling landscape of Alaska, tumbling into deep fall.
Brr.
I first want to thank all involved, especially Jackalope, for making this summer's JackerCon a rousing success. I was fortunate enough to get to finally play in his Nahul game,
Oh, yeah.
and he's a fantastic GM.
Mm-hmm.
Playing a game steeped in the Latinx culture and confronting the horrors of colonialism/imperialism, where we get to be supernaturally powered animal spirits that run a taco truck selling tacos made out of collected angel parts, was
Wow.
absolutely amazing. Play this game. Bought it.
There's the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, how does that remind me of Dave
Dogma?
Kazay's Gruel truck?
Yeah.
Also got to play in the latest version of Kimmy's Starscape, and I am very excited to see this game go to print. It was incredible to see how much more streamlined the game has become in the past 2 years.
I'd also like to point out this is a little bit of an old email, so it's better even now. It's even more streamlined than it was a few months ago.
Played a delightful L5R game where I defaulted to my favorite clan, Crab. I got to run Alien, and I'll just say, as a mental note to me, myself, and I, leave time at the end for feedback. It was nice to hear that Ellie enjoyed herself in that game. She wrote into the show a few weeks back, because my wasp nest of a brain really thought it was not great and not very fun.
Aww.
Drives me bonkers sometimes how I can second guess myself into thinking the game was a flop when I could have just asked at the end for some stars and wishes.
Yeah. Like he also went all out on that game. Like he had me pre-record dialogue, like because there's like a computer countdown and stuff like that. So it was like, we'll self-destruct in 5 minutes. So I had all this stuff I recorded and sent him. Like he was on it with planning that game. It was amazing.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I waited till the night before to actually record it and send it to you, but he sent it to me way early. So he was on the ball. I was not.
Fair enough. Also, shout out to Stinky Fool for running Under the Hollow Hills by Vincent and Megwee Baker. Baker. Where we play Faye Carnies putting on a traveling circus slash sideshow slash vaudevillian performance.
Yep.
It's a fantastic game, and I loved getting to play it. Bought the book right after the game concluded. And I am fortunate enough to get to play with the aforementioned Vincent Baker himself at Big Bad Con. I'm sure that went well. In fact, I should probably stop droning on about how excited I am, as I've begun to annoy myself. My question, is it worthwhile to do a Stars and Wishes style go around the table at the beginning and at the end of the game? Are there other techniques you'd recommend to check in with the table to gauge the mood of the game? Especially con games where I'll be playing mostly with strangers. Except Kadave will apparently be in my Trophy Gold game because he, like yours truly, is just strange. P.S. Just one P.S. I very much look forward to getting to finally meet some of you in person after 12 plus years. for those who like to plan the long con, did you see what I did there? I am also looking at finding a way to attend OrcCon in February 2024.
Woo.
I don't know if I'll be able to see you.
And leaving the cold? What for?
I mean, it'll be February in Los
slightly
Angeles.
warmer.
It'll be February in Alaska.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's a good point, yeah.
The bar. It's very different. It's like, oh, it's going to be so cold. It might be like 68 or 70. I might have to wear my
It
sweatshirt.
drops into the 40s, just not negative 40s.
Yeah. And
It's
then, like,
absolutely delightful.
At night, yeah. Anyway, cheers, Captain Kurt.
There we go.
yes.
Yeah, OrcCon in February is very much a shorts and t-shirt con.
I mean, usually, yeah. Sometimes
Indoors,
it rains
usually.
a little,
Yeah.
but not.
But like,
It's like California rain.
Yeah.
It's like everyone freaks out while they're driving, except people who aren't from here.
not for here. Exactly.
And like,
And if you're from out of town, you won't have to worry about that because it's not like you're going to be driving.
yeah, and it just means you have
Yep.
to sometimes be careful where you walk in your regular sneakers because there might be a puddle a little bit on the sidewalk.
Yes.
Yeah, we
Oh,
don't.
no.
These are hazards of LA rain.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, it gets to be like 110 in the summers, so
115.
yeah,
With no humidity even.
no, none.
Dry heat.
But yes, no, it was super great to meet a bunch of people in
Yeah.
person for the first time. Kurt, it was one of those very surreal moments where you know a person and you feel like you know them really well. Like it's like what I was talking about earlier. Like
Mhm.
and like I was in the dealer hall and I don't remember, were you standing with me when Kurt first walked up?
I think
you-
so. Yeah.
Yeah, we were in there a lot, but and then I like in my peripheral, this very tall person like is just kind of looking, and I'm like, I look and I'm like, I know, and it's like, oh, and then it's just like this cool moment, and you get to give this person a
Yeah.
giant hug, and I don't know, it was just very cool. And then yeah, we got to play in games together. We did Decima.
If
Yeah.
if Captain Kurt is coming down in February, if we can get Potts to come down in February, I'll see if I can make it there for at least
Oh.
one day, and we can have another meeting at the Council of
Kurtapalooza.
Kurtz.
The Council of Kurtz.
Yeah.
That'll be amazing. It will.
It's been a while since we've had one of those.
Yeah, it must
So.
be so very exciting. Yeah.
I don't know if I do Stars and Wishes at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
Especially for a con game. I mean, maybe in a campaign when people have had time to digest what happened the week before,
Yeah.
but
I might
you
do
don't
that,
know.
yeah.
You don't at the beginning of a
You
con
don't know
game.
what
you
you
have
want.
exactly.
Yeah.
You have no idea what to expect. I mean, lines and veils is important at the
Mhm.
beginning,
Yes.
but I mean, yeah. I mean, I think that's putting too much on the players to have expectations.
And really, I think people tend to default to regular or interesting, and it puts too much on a GM
Yeah.
to like, okay, the hoop is this small, jump through it.
Yeah.
I think I would do it for like community, like game days or JackerCon, because there's enough of a norm in the community
okay.
that people kind of know how it is. A lot of times I know us and like a lot of other Discord events like that, you get like a room set up with the players like a few days ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you can kind of talk about like goals for the game, lines and veils ahead of time. I feel like when you have that time, it might be good to be like, hey, is there anything you really want to get out of this game? But it's like someone sitting down to a table, like there's already a lot of stuff to do there.
Mhm.
It might be, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like how to do that in a way. Like
Yeah.
I don't think it would be a bad idea to like doing a full Stars and Wishes might be hard, but just being like, hey, does anyone have something they absolutely want to get done or try in this game?
Right.
I think that would be good. And I like as someone who sits down to play new systems a lot, I would really appreciate that if there's like a specific thing that I want to try out and be like, I have heard that the XYZ mechanic in this is super cool.
Mhm.
I want to make sure we see how that's done.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's an answer you might get a lot more than like, or once they maybe wait till after they make characters and be like, and maybe make like a character goal.
Yeah. I think
that-
there's a
yeah.
power in playbooks. And playbooks are such an amazing RPG mechanic
Mhm.
that most people don't consider a mechanic. But essentially, it's like most playbooks are set up so you can figure out the thing you want to do during the game.
Yeah.
And it's like, so when people bring like all of these like witchy types to a game that has like lots of like shoot 'em up and sword play, like, you know, we're going to take this game and let the players be witchy.
Yeah.
Because that's what they want to do. Somebody picked a punch 'em character. We're going to make sure they get to punch something. And I think playbooks are kind of that thing, you know, that what do you want to do?
Yeah.
Somebody might know the system well enough to say, I also want to. Can we actually see an alien in an Aliens game or something?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
playbooks are awesome for that.
Yeah. And well done playbooks and character stuff a lot of times has some sort of element of this is your goal as this character, or this is what you want or believe in, or this is something you have a problem with. Which is
Wow.
Bumble
Okay.
True said, I told
Yeah.
my GM, I want someone to throw me at an enemy.
yeah.
I mean, fastball special
They
is
did
a classic.
That is what it was exactly. It was the fastball special. It was
And
amazing.
if there are no players available, make sure an NPC shows up.
Yeah.
I mean,
But I mean, that's a great thing. Like,
Yeah.
hey, if you are playing in a superhero game, like, I want, you know, like this sort of thing. Like I want to be able to just fucking like punch a thing and have it fly up. Like, these are the cool moments.
Yeah.
Like, people want
Yeah.
these things. They have preconceived notions that they sit down to any RPG with.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like from pop culture, from things they've read, whatever it is. Like, people sit down to a vampire game and they want specific things.
Yes.
I think having a succinct way of asking that is not a bad thing. Like, maybe even just hand out a 3x5 card if you're at a real table and just be like, write down one thing that you'd love to have happen in this game someday.
And,
ooh, I like that idea.
Ooh,
and
that's good.
emphasize that you will try.
Yeah.
No
I
promises.
can't,
No
I can't
promises.
guarantee,
Yeah.
but I will try to work this in.
Yeah, exactly. And like, do your
I
best.
think that, I want to beat a motherfucker with another motherfucker.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever it is. Or like, you know, we're playing Masks. I want to, you know, and you're the doomed. I want my doom to actually happen.
Right.
Can we fast forward this? That like usually it takes multiple sessions. Can I have this happen? Or I'm playing a I can't think of it. When a magic user has a patron who's a demon or
Oh,
yeah,
like a
yeah,
warlock.
Warlock, there we go. Thank
Warlock.
you. I'm like, I played this in fucking WoW for ages. How can I think of the word?
I want to meet my patron and have
yeah.
have the patron.
Face
If yeah, like, oh, you're gonna fuck around? Guess what? You found out.
Yeah, exactly. Or maybe they like have a thing where they don't know their patron and like they don't know who their patron is.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to have this revealed to me or
Oh,
something
yeah.
like that. Like, people write really interesting things. Maybe it's something simple as just like, I want to make sure we meet the king. Like, okay,
Yeah.
great, no problem.
Yep.
Like, bringing it back around. But
Nice.
yeah, just like having that way to a full stars and wishes, and a lot of times you'll have to explain how to do that with people at the table, because they don't necessarily know what stars and wishes are. Even lines and veils, a lot of times you have to explain. And so having, you know, just a 3x5 card, write down like one wish or, you know, or what one thing you'd love to have happen in this game. I'll do my best, and just collecting those. Make sure they put their names on it, because then you just have like a whole bunch of cards with like wishes and you have no idea whose is whose. That is awful.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that would be my go-to. with that.
Preferably player and character name.
Yeah, or like at least one of them,
Yeah.
because
Exactly.
And post
otherwise they get no credit if they did not put their name on it.
I knew that was coming.
teacher tools.
Teacher mode.
I
Teacher
knew
mode.
that was coming.
Oh,
man.
I don't know how
I
to do it.
want to encourage Kurt, who seems like somebody who I kind of identify sometimes with, that sometimes you run a game and you just don't know. And if you are feeling down at the end of a game, feel free to like share some kind of contact info and let folks know, hey, sometimes I have a hard time taking feedback. Could you like drop me a note and let me know? And you will find that you will hear it different later
Yeah.
than at the table.
You're a lot, especially. I mean, even if it's constructive criticism, a lot of us will take criticism and immediately fall defensive,
Right.
in the moment. But yeah, that gift of time,
Yeah.
of being able to remove yourself
Like
a
you
step
get
away
to
from
come
it.
down
Yeah.
from
Exactly. Right.
running the game.
Yeah. What do you think, Minerva? Would you feel like put on the spot if you were asked something like that at a game you were with like strangers or new people?
It'd be like the waitress or waiter coming by and you're just chomping into a burger. And like, how you doing? It's like, this is good. This is good. That's
I
that's
really
how I
need
would feel.
ranch. I really need ranch. That's right.
Which
It's
is also
good. It's
yeah.
good.
Which is also why having like the later feedback or like the little card there where they can just circle
Mhm.
things like, here we go. Well, I can like munch on my burger and also give feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I will say that if you are going to do that, I like the idea of cards. At
Yeah.
a lot of cons, I've gotten, like, if you would like to give me some feedback, and they hand out a full 8.5 by 11 sheet with like 6 or 7 questions on it.
Oh
Yeah.
boy, no.
And I'm just like,
No.
I don't have
And not
time
after a full
between
game.
now and my next game to fill this out.
Yeah.
And if I don't do it now, I'm
It's
not
not gonna
going to
get
remember.
done. Yeah.
I'm not going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to get wadded up in the bottom of my backpack. I'll find it when I dig it out for the next convention,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which actually literally happened with Strategic Con. So that's why it was a real specific memory. So yeah, I mean,
Like if you have something prepared already,
Mm-hmm.
to pass out to people, because you're coming in with people are coming in sometimes with a blank slate, and it's like coming into the wine selection part or a cheese bar or something, and you're just like, you see all the cheese, you see all the wines, and you have no idea. But having something visual in
Right.
front of you, you pick at the labels, you like find the prettiest one, and you say, "This is what I want."
Sorry, it sounds corny, but it is actually useful. Instead of asking questions on those cards, make statements and then put the strongly disagree, slightly disagree, neutral, slightly agree, strongly agree, and have them just circle that.
Yeah.
I agree with this statement or I completely disagree with that statement. You are more likely to get feedback.
Yeah.
And then at the end, provide a notes section like anything specific you'd like to tell me that I didn't cover. And I would not put more than 4 questions on that card.
No.
4 is even a lot. And it's best, like statistically, as someone who knows a lot about asking questions and actually has like a degree in this, it's best if you're actually looking for feedback to have 6 options, because then they cannot pick the middle option.
Oh, yeah.
So they either have to pick
Even number.
Or 4. You can
Positive
also
or
go
negative.
yeah.
So that way they're on one side or the other.
Yeah.
They're not like, oh, down the middle. Yeah, it's fine. And then you get like,
not applicable.
yeah. And you're just like, okay, that's not helpful if everything's down the middle. You're like,
yeah.
great.
I answered C.
Yeah. Every time.
And,
But
and
yeah.
if you have these cards and you're feeling anxious, you could just run away.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just throw the cards up in the air and disappear in a snow of index cards.
Yeah. There you go. Oh,
It's just as good as a smoke bomb.
that would be amazing. I feel like that's what if I was actually a superhero and I wasn't Wonder Woman, like I imagine myself to be, I think my actual superpower would be like something with office supplies.
Mm-hmm.
Thumbtacks.
Like
I
Street Fighter
mean,
Markers everywhere.
considering the Diana Prince version from the 70s television series, I could absolutely see that.
Yeah. For a long time, my icon on the internet was her as like a teacher, like with like the Themyscira history and the blackboard behind her, and she was just starting to like do the change where she's like starting and you could just see a little bit of like her chest plate, and she was like pulling off her glasses. I was like, yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. But yeah, and also just like to give yourself space, like especially like when you're like at a con game, it's a little difficult, like again because you don't know who you're gonna have at the table, but at like on the Discord for like JackerCon and game days and stuff like that, like it's a safe space. Like the people there, we're friends. Like you're gonna have off days. Like I've run really bad one shots quite a few times, and I've run also like the same day run incredible one shots. So like we all have off days. Like no one's gonna be angry at you for just having a little bit of an off game, and sometimes it happens, and you have to allow yourself space to have that happen.
The other thing about, especially at a con where you're running one shots, it's kind of like stage performance in one specific. It's ephemeral.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's done. It's in the past. Nothing you do will change it. So don't bother worrying about it.
Right.
Learn from it watch the game footage. If you don't like it, like watch it in your mind. If you don't like it, burn it and move on.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And honestly,
Opposite to that.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Opposite to that, if you do have something physical from them, like a little card with their feedback, if you like it, you can keep it.
That's
Just
true.
Stick it in your place and refer back to it when you're feeling crappy. You're like, oh, this made me. I made
This guy
someone think.
liked me. This
Somebody
guy liked my
liked me.
game. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's huge. And like keeping that. He's like, I have stuff from a lot of things. And one of my most visceral memories is like the first time I was running a game at a con, and like someone came up to me a little while later who had played in the game and just kind of left. And I was like, oh, okay. And then like we were like in line for sandwiches or something. And like he walks up, he's like, hey, I liked your game. And that was like it. Like that was like it. But it was like, oh, like he liked it enough to like walk over to me
Right.
from his table 20 feet away to tell me he liked my game.
He took effort.
Yeah, he made effort.
Yeah.
Like it was like, okay, like one of my like most visceral memories, because I was new to running it, and especially at cons, and I had been freaking nervous, and I kind of assumed that negative since they just kind of like left. But they were like way ahead, like they were eating while we were all still in sandwich line, so obviously they'd left to like get in line for lunch. And then like I don't know, just like it wasn't even like deep meaningful, like it was just like, hey, good, cool.
And this space is this community is so accustomed to people just not always being on their social A game. And I think there's just a lot of grace. You know, people are very okay with you having an emotional moment, feeling inadequate. I think a lot of people in the community are very understanding that way.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you don't have to be perfect.
Nobody's nerfed.
Yeah. All right. I think we're good. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for writing in, Kurt. It was great to meet you. And
I hope
How
to
do-
meet you in February if I can make it.
do it.
I hope to be able to say
Do
that
it.
thing you just said.
Nobody's nerfed?
Po bodies, nerfic.
There you go.
I'm going to practice.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for joining us for season 32, episode 20. Please support our amazing indie designer of the month, Monroe Wells Soto, they, and at monroero.itch.io, which still is great. Monroe. Thank you to our chat mod, James V, and to our amazing patrons who keep us ad-free and independent. You can join their incredible ranks at happyjacks.org/Patreon. My name is Kimmy.
I'm Minerva.
I'm Kurt.
And I'm Mo.
All right. And we are going to leave you with a song today. This is The Pub That We Call Home by the
I
world
love this
famous
song.
Poxy Boggarts. You can find them at poxyboggarts.com. And thank you all so much. Sorry that we didn't have a show last week, but we were at the con and I got home on Sunday afternoon and I had been really like thinking positive, like, oh yeah, optimistic. I can totally. I was like, no.
And then
I-
you sat down.
Your
Yeah.
body said no.
I was like, oh my God. And I still have a toddler who's going to be awake for like 3 hours. It's going to be great. Okay. So thank you for hanging in there. And yeah, we will see you next week.
Oh,
yeah.
one
Do your
quick
thing.
one quick thing. If you are in the Las Vegas area this coming weekend, please come out to Sunset Park to the Age of Chivalry Renaissance Festival and see us, me and my band Sportive Tricks, and we will be playing there Friday, Saturday afternoon and evening. We're closing the stage Saturday night at 9 o'clock, and then one more show on Sunday, and it's a lot of fun. It's a really fun fair.
That's a super great fair. And I love that they do night shows.
Oh yeah, it's open till 10 p.m.
Yeah.
each night because
Wow.
it's freaking Vegas.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, it's a lot of fun. Come out and see us.
Awesome. All right. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Well, allow me to tell ye of a place dear to heart, of each sailor and soldier, both Slavic and smart. Each face in that place is familiar and warm, where each traveler weary retreats from life's storm.
'Tis this pub that we call home, and from her we oft times may roam, but our respite we'll find in a pint, maybe 9 in this pub that we call home.
Though married but not merry, bearing lowly life's load, and suffering the chafing of my long-winded road, entombed in the womb of this free house at Bath, her walls provide shelter from my wife's wicked wrath.
'Tis this pub that we call home, and from her we oft times may roam, but our respite we'll find in a pint, maybe 9 in this pub that we call home.
In the hours when life sours and I'm weary and beat, to the hopping and copping I need to retreat. With a pale cup of ale and my good mate's concerns, I'm rested yet weary till the battle returns.
'Tis this pub that we call home, and from her we oft times may roam, but our respite we'll find in a pint, maybe 9 in this pub that we call home.
With the raging of aging in my last breath I crave, please pull up the floorboards and dig me a grave. As you rouse and carouse, pour an ale on the floor. If you listen with care, you may hear me cry more.
Tis this pub that we call home, and from her we oft times may roam, but our respite we'll find in a pint, maybe 9 in this pub that we call home. 'Tis this pub that we call home, and from her we oft times may roam, but our respite we'll find in